For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon de Rehove. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me for Suttner's View, a weekly commentary on South Africa's political scene. Welcome, Raymond.
Hi. Thanks.
Now, South Africa celebrates 20 years of democracy this year. How do you think we should evaluate those 20 years?
I think it's quite important in being fair not to gloss over problems and not to identify these in a sort of balance sheet. There have been so many houses and they undertook to do X and Y. I think someone like Max Dupree, who's written a book, has tried to be fair, and in that attempt he's actually not given adequate attention to the extent to which the gains of 1994 have been undermined. I'm speaking really of an opening, the preface, where he says basically we have stability and we have democratic institutions that work. And what I want to do is to actually examine whether that is true. Mm-hmm. But before saying that, something that's on my mind a lot is that when we were struggling for a situation where we would have democracy in this country, what we had in mind in the 1980s was a situation where democracy was not merely voting every 5 years, where people would play a political role every day of their lives. And we didn't have in mind this situation where you would just be an observer apart from that. Now, somewhere along the line, when negotiations were initiated, that idea of politics was displaced. And I think one has to understand that when you negotiate, you don't negotiate about informal institutions. You negotiate about the structure of the state and institutions of the state. Mm-hmm. So it didn't mean that what was decided in the Constitution was antagonistic to popular institutions, but somehow they fell by the wayside. And I believe that it's very important for citizens to feel involved in their own lives, and I want to raise this in the course of this discussion. Mm-hmm. What I think we can say about the present is that our democracy is in crisis. It's in crisis at a number of different levels. There's a crisis of legality in that there's extensive corruption, lawlessness, violence, some of this violence clearly being illegal, some of this violence being officially sanctioned by the state and not yet leading to prosecutions. But we've had shocking cases of violence, like when Mido Masia, the taxi person from Mozambique, was dragged behind a police van, and there are many similar cases to that. Obviously, you have the Marikana massacre and many other cases like this. You have a situation where the idea of political advancement is associated within the ANC, and the ANC is the main act in town, even if it is now going to lose some votes to the EFF. I don't think they'll lose so many to the DA. Even if it does, the ANC is still likely to get close to 60%. Now, how the ANC conducts itself internally and externally is important in terms of the type of ethos that we have around political life, around public service, whether public life is service. Chief Luthuli used to speak about the gospel of service, but that idea of service is not present anymore. Mm. And we have a situation where, insofar as the ANC is likely to be re-elected, you have a situation of choiceless democracy. You have a situation where insofar as the DA is contesting, they are contesting around specific issues of corruption. They are not really advancing a program that can appeal to the poorest of the poor. When the TCB, Traditional Courts Bill, was recently defeated, the DA had played no role in that. The DA had gone to court over a motion of confidence in the president, but it has never brought litigation about basic services, correct me if I'm wrong, about the needs of the poor. So there's a sense that people who are not amongst the middle classes and white have a skepticism about the DA as an alternative. There's another kid on the block, as they say, the economic freedom fighters, who speak the language of the poorest of the poor. But it's a populist language. They say they'll nationalize this and they'll seize this without compensation. And obviously it speaks to people who are desperate. But when people are desperate, it's important that you offer them not just an answer that is appealing to their aspirations, but an answer that will work. And I don't think that they are doing this. So my feeling is that many of the constitutional gains of 1994, including the judiciary, the Judicial Services Commission, is being undermined by packing it, and they appoint the judges. The policing system is very selective in the way in which they pursue crimes. The prosecution system has been undermined at the highest level by the president of the country having charges suppressed. So my sense is that this, on the one hand, shows that the Constitution is there, but is under stress, and that is a situation which is viewed as unstable by investors and by locally and internationally.
So do you think then that there is a threat to our democracy? And if there is, what can we do to sort of stabilize it in order to ensure stability and freedom?
The way in which I would approach this is in a very broad and non-sectarian way. I think we've got to identify what are the key issues that fill people with revulsion, fill people with a sense of insecurity, fill people with a sense of disillusionment and hopelessness. Now, yesterday, Alex Borain was writing about hopelessness and saying that these people are just power hungry. Now, I don't know that that helps us because we've got to identify the problems and what are these problems and identify them broadly and who wants to remedy that. Now, I believe that there are people inside the ANC who want to remedy that. There are people in the DA who want to remedy that. There are people outside of these organizations who want to remedy this. So I do not favor a sectarian approach where one says, let us unite the left, as in this NUMSA project and the new movement for political organization. I believe we've got to try and get together a number of people who have not previously worked together because they agree on some of these things. Not meaning the DA as organization or the ANC as organization, you'll never bring them together. But people within these organizations as well as people outside it who would like to recover the gains of 1994 and build on them to make our democracy the vibrant democracy that I believe it can be.
Thank you very much, Raymond. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking about politics and elections in South Africa.